Hello, Tom. And it's
Hey, Simon.
you sort of gave me a quick shout and said, "Oh, I've been doing a bit of number crunching," and it sounded pretty good. So I thought we'd just share it with everybody.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for having me on again. It's a pleasure. Um, so we're getting closer to when things will happen and shown and the truth will come out, etc.
Yeah.
Um, Something that has come up is this whole thing of the stock market um, and the market crashing. Um, so there's been some big codes in the newspapers in the last few days since you and I spoke on Monday, and what we're
Right.
today, Thursday now. So this is one just to give you an example. So this came out on Tuesday, and it's the tabloids, and I find they're very good for the actual codes.
Okay.
So I'll show this to everybody. You can see. Can you see that clearly,
Yeah.
Simon?
Publicity shy couple to tell all to Opry. Yeah. Yes. Really.
Yes. Now, the day before that, pretty much every newspaper had a picture of Harry and Meghan.
Right.
Now, the interesting thing about this is the word publicity comes to 117. It also comes to the words market crash. Now, Harry comes to 70, which comes to Simon. Meghan comes to 48, which comes to Tom.
Huh.
So you've got Harry and Meghan, you've got Tom and Simon. Add them together, 70 plus 48 comes to 118. And we spoke about 118 being this massive number and connected with my cousin Paul, his date of birth, etc., in the previous episode. But 118 comes to the storm. Now, this is where it really gets very interesting. When you add 117, market crash, publicity, to 118, it comes to 235. Now, 235 is very interesting. I noticed some things today. Today was actually a beautiful day here in England, well, down in London anyway. And I could see the sunset, and then the moon came up. Well, the moon was out. And I noticed that the moon it's almost half. It's almost at the first quarter, which happens tomorrow. Now, the half moon. So half comes to 27, which is JFK. The is 33. Plus moon is 57 is Tesla. It comes to 84. 84 was that number that I corrected myself with you the other day on, so you can see where this is all happening. But if you do 84 plus 11, hang on, yeah, if you do, let me do this right now. Yeah, so if you do 235, yeah, 117. Okay, yeah. So publicity or market crash plus 118 is the storm. Meghan, Harry, Simon, Tom, etc. comes to 235. If you do first quarter, so when you get to a half moon, I thought it was just half moon, then I looked it up. So it's the first quarter, it's the first phase, so it looks like a half, and that will hit tomorrow. Okay, and the significance of that is first comes to 72, quarter, first is also money, quarter comes to 100, that comes to 172, that comes to halftime show. We had the Super Bowl halftime show not 10 days ago or so. When you add the day Friday, that's 63, which is tomorrow, that comes to 235. So the half moon, the first quarter comes to first quarter plus Friday comes to 235, which comes to market crash plus the storm, or publicity plus Harry Meghan, and then Harry and Meghan 118 is also Tom Simon. If you take this a little further, you also have you can also have this. You can have half moon equals 84, which again was that number that I pronounced. I missaid to you the other time, which is Arizona, which is very important for yourself in the whole thing of Arizona. Phoenix comes to consciousness, which is 175, which would kind of blow your mind at the time.
Yes.
But if you do half moon, which is 84, plus the Jasara reset, which is 151, which is also Jesus Christ. Again, it comes to 235. Something else happened yesterday. I bumped into the comedian Keith Lemon. Don't know if you know Keith Lemon. He does
know of him, yeah.
You know of him, yeah. So I bumped into him yesterday in Regent's Park, and I did the numbers on Keith. And Keith, if you're listening, I did tell you about my channel. Hopefully we can get you on some shows. But so Keith Lemon. So this is what happens. So Keith comes to 53. Lemon comes to 45. That comes to 98. Which comes to Independence. But then I looked up his real name, so that's one of his character names. His real name is Lee Francis, Ligh, which comes to 41, which comes to the year that we're in, 2021, comes to King, it comes to TSB, my initials, it comes to Alien, it comes to Good, it comes to USA, it comes to a lot of things. Francis comes to 70, the male way of spelling it, because we talked about Diana and Francis last time, which comes to 70, which is Simon. Okay, so Simon plus TSB, Tom Sidney Bushnell plus Simon comes to Lee Francis, which comes to 111, which is perfection. And we did our last episode on February 15, which comes to 111. So he popped up, but you add them both together. So 98, Keith Lemon plus Lee Francis comes to 209, which comes to, and then if you add Manhattan, sorry.
Why would you add Manhattan? Why would you add Manhattan?
I think Manhattan I think that's a focal part in terms of what's going to happen with the market crash, the stock exchange. Going back to the film, Christopher Nolan's Tenet film, there's a part in there. I don't know if you've had a chance to see it, Simon.
Go on, yeah. Some of it,
yeah. So right at the beginning, they basically do a kind of job where they, and interestingly enough, they smash it. They hit they throw a saxophone on the floor. A saxophone is on the floor. Saxophone comes to 117 again, which is market crash, which is also publicity. This whole thing of Meghan and Harry. But then they have to get a box, which is it's an algorithm. It's a code. But it's in this kind of silver, piece of hardware, and the guy gives it to him. It says code check, and the protagonist runs off and goes to the code check, and it's 246. 246 is the number of where the code is and where this package is, but 246 comes to New York Stock Exchange.
How interesting. Which
also comes to twinkling of an eye. Twinkling comes to 175 consciousness, which is Arizona plus Phoenix, which is 175, which is a big part of the first part of your website. The other part with that as well is 246. So if you add 175 plus 71, 71 comes to Psych, which is the first part of my channel. So the first part of consciousness is part of your channel, your following, plus Psych, which is part of mine. You add them together, it comes to 246 again, which is the New York Stock Exchange, which is twinkling of an eye. Also, my cousin Paul, that I've mentioned a few times with this, his numbers come up to 208, but he died when he was 38. And if you add that together, 208 plus 38, it comes to 246 again. So there's a lot of these things looping around. I'm wearing this one today from Game of Thrones. It says I drink and I know things. I hardly ever drink at all. Can't remember the last time I did, but I'm a fan of Game of Thrones. But President Trump said something interesting many months ago, and he said, mark it down. And he repeated it twice. And that, when you add it together, mark it down comes to 124, which is gigawatts. It's also Michael Jackson. But when you repeat it twice, it comes to 248, which comes to I drink and I know things. So I thought I'd wear that for optics.
Optics.
Yeah, so for optics. But the other thing with this as well. So tomorrow, I said to you that there's something interesting about tomorrow in regards to this. And again, this came from the newspapers. There was a few things prior to that there were links to The Dark Knight with again, Christopher Nolan, with the bank job. So there were some markers around that I felt with 219, but this illustrates it better. So here, going back to Harry and Meghan again, because they're all over the papers right now, and I believe for a purpose. Here, okay. So this was yesterday, Wednesday, okay. Now, this one is in the Sun newspaper. Are you able to read that?
Yeah,
clearly,
let
Simon?
me see my grandkids, Megan. Yeah.
Okay, so it says, let me see my grandkids, comma, Megan. Let me see my grandkids comes up to 219, which 219 is February 19th, perhaps tomorrow. Okay. Megan, we've already established, comes to 48, which is Tom. So I saw this as a code, as a message saying 219 Tom. And I've been seeing other things about this whole thing of perhaps a market crash, being precipitated around this time. So I thought that was interesting. And there's other bits that have come up. You're mentioned again on the back pages of the newspapers today. So I'll pull this one up for you, Simon. I haven't had a chance to go through all of them today. I will do later, so there might be more codes later for another episode. But let me show you what I've found today, which is this. So there we are. Okay.
What have you got?
So this one here, we've got Cherry Henry, if you can see that.
Yeah.
Now, Cherry comes to 77, which is Christ. 7. Okay. Henri or Henry comes to the same value as Harry.
Wow.
They're quite often interchangeable. Harry, Henry, it's kind of a nickname, etc. But anyway, Henry or Henri comes to 70, which also comes to Simon. Now, Christ is 77, and your date of birth is when, Simon?
Well, it's the 7th of September.
Yes. So Sept being the old
7
month, Sept 7, so 7. Now you add those both together, 77 plus 70 comes to 147, which comes to the trump card. So again, there's more comms, and it all ties into, we've been doing our episodes, the current thing that's happening now. The storm equals Simon plus Tom, it equals Megan plus Harry, 117, market crash, publicity added to the storm, 118 comes to 235, and 235 has all those references in regards to the moon. There was another one as well in regards to the moon.
While you're finding that, I mean,
please, go. Yeah, that will give me a breather. Thank you, Simon. Yeah,
it's fine. Don't like to stop you because it's so fascinating. There's been a lot of debate whether, when we move to the quantum system, whether the market will crash or whether it will seamlessly transfer. And nobody really knows. And so
yes,
there is a potential for a market crash when the old guys basically can't transfer to the new system. And we know some of the key players, like Elon Musk, have been putting all their money in Bitcoin. And some of the other very wealthy people have been putting it into land. I mean, one of the guys owns more land in America than any other individual now.
Who's that?
Well, I won't say his name because I got deplatformed for.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I thought it was public news, but
it is public.
barely watch
it
the
is
news.
Public news, but if
we don't need to mention it, we will not mention it.
No, it's fine. It is public news, but if you use it on an alternative radio show, then people immediately say, "Oh, you're a Trump supporter," and they'll.
I understand.
But the point is that what's happening in the mainstream news is that people are reporting now that those in very, very top positions are getting out of the stock exchange and putting their money in precious metals or cryptocurrencies or buying land. Now, yeah, sure, they might just be hedging their bets, but it might be that they are aware that there's a serious possibility of a stock market crash.
Yes.
And when Trump says market down and things like that, he could also mean stock market going down.
Yes.
So yeah. I think that I think it's imminent, the changeover. I absolutely think that the transfer to a new system is very imminent. But
yes.
I truly don't know, Tom, whether it'll go okay or whether there will be a crash. And I think it's very dependent on the bad guys. I think the bad guys have got it in their power to make a crash.
The bad guys, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's very interesting, actually.
Because they won't have anything. You see, they won't have anything. The vast majority of them, they won't be able to make money out of the new system.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
So what are they going to do? So they might just, literally go berserk and cause aggravation for a few days.
Right. That makes a lot of sense as well. Yeah. And President Trump has spoken about he's mentioned the word seamless a few times. And I think if I remember rightly, that comes to 93, FLOTUS, Bushnell, etc. But he's also talked about the transition to greatness, this transition, a smooth transition. And he talked about a smooth transition of power. So perhaps, like you said, it could be that the stock market goes, but then, where's the money going to go? Okay, it's going to go into other assets, which makes very logical sense. Yeah,
it's not in the main bank's interest to have a crash. It's not the only people who it's in their interest are those that have got nothing more to gain. So I should think 95% of the financial world wants a seamless transition, but there will be this 5% of diehards, and I genuinely don't know whether they have enough influence when the time comes to cause a crash. But I think what you're seeing is elite people hedging their bets. So they're saying, look, if it happens, I'm not going to be caught out. So a lot of talk about market crash could simply be that that's what's on the cards, Tom.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That could well be it, and maybe it is. It's it's all done in a seamless, delightful way, and those that need to be out are out, and those that need to stay in, the mass public are okay. So that would again make a lot of sense. Very good, Simon. Very good. Something else that popped into my mind today, well, in the last little while, was if you do if you do Harry and Meghan, or Simon and Tom, and then you do the and, it used to be that the ampersand was the 27th letter of the alphabet, quite a long, maybe a couple hundred years ago, whenever it was. And I only discovered that probably in the last 4 or 5 months. So it was interesting. But 27 comes to JFK again. It comes to red. But when you write a headline, Simon and Meghan, or Tom and Simon, it comes to 148, 145, which is numerology, which I thought was quite nice.
Particularly good.
Another one. Sorry.
Particularly good for you.
Yes, yeah. Another one as well that is interesting is when you hear it in films, but the whole thing of stand down. So with all of this, when it goes, whether it's a seamless financial transition, as you've described, when and how this works in terms of governments and places of power, the phrase "stand down" comes to mind. You hear it in a lot of films, etc. But stand down comes to 114, which comes to trump card again. And we've seen there's been a lot of CEOs and people that have stand down, and President Trump's done a lot of that prior to the state that we're at now. But 114 stand down comes to trump card again, which is interesting. Another thing that came up in closing was the phrase about warning people. So warning your neighbor. And I thought this might just be a nice way to finish. So warn your neighbor. So the film Tenet, again, I do refer to it a lot because I think it's very applicable to where we're at now. There's a thing called, well, again, this algorithm. They talk about the algorithm that does all kinds of things in the world, but they refer to it as plutonium-241.
Right.
Now, plutonium is referenced in the Back to the Future films. It's referenced in other films, but plutonium is a power source. Plutonium comes to 141, which comes to Looking Glass.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. It also comes to Tom Bushnell. It comes to one of the ways I can say my name. So it's one that I notice. But it's in. So I've come up with a few things for the 241, but one of them came up today, which I wanted to share. So 241. Okay, so if you say the phrase "warn your neighbor," warn comes to 56, which is light. It's also Nolan. It's also 3 going into the third age. Your comes to 86, which when you actually break it down, you can actually get the word 19 out of it.
Okay.
And there's a part in The Dark Knight Rises with the American football sequence. The player's number on the back is 86, which can refer to 19. It's also Ward, which is Charlie, or Dove, 46, President Trump's year of birth. Neighbor comes to 99, which is an interesting one. We've just seen that Prince Philip is being mentioned in the papers, and he's 99. So there's something with that. But 99 comes to Jupiter. It also comes to Patriot, which is right on time and on point at the moment. But when you add those together, warn your neighbor. So 56 plus 86 plus 99 comes to 241. So plutonium 141, Tom Bushnell 141, warn your neighbor 241. So it's like, with what we're doing here, Simon, we are warning our brothers and sisters, our neighbours, the collective consciousness of the world, and I know that it's appreciated. I know sometimes things get fired, slings and arrows, etc. But there is an overwhelming sense of gratitude and thanks for the work that you're doing, that Charlie's doing, that I'm doing, that Melke, everyone that's involved in this, all the work that we're doing, people do really resonate and appreciate it. They're thirsty for it.
I'm sure they do, but unfortunately, there's quite a sizable group of people who, I don't know what it is, Tom, and they seem to be just lost it. Really, they seem to be quite unhappy with the world and their lot. And I don't talk about it much, but I always think, if you don't like somebody, why do you listen to them? Why do you listen to the show and then how much you don't like them? I mean, if there's something I don't like, let's say it's a piece of cherry cake or something like that, I don't eat it. I mean, so
you wouldn't waste your time, would you? Why would you do that?
I don't get it sometimes, and it's odd. It really is odd. But I know that there are a great deal of people out there who they want to use their time constructively. They don't want to spend their time hunched over a laptop, giggling and laughing to themselves that they've been particularly vicious or nasty. Most people actually want to get the truth, do some research, try and find out what's going on, and be prepared, either emotionally or physically, ready for what's coming. I mean, for Lord's sake, that's what information is for. It's to give people the heads up so that they can be ready, because they're sure as heck not going to get it off the BBC or anywhere. And it's just odd that there's people who don't want to prepare. They don't want to be ready. They don't want to think about it. They just want to roll around in their own world. And I'm thinking, well, what a waste of your opportunity. Because let's say, for instance, stock market crash. Let's say if someone has got, maybe your granddad or a family member, you want to warn them. You want to say, look, maybe you want to put them into something else that's a bit more secure. That's what information is about. It's about being prepared as best you can. And so, that's why Charlie Ward and you and I and many others do this, not because we're on some ego trip, but because we get some good information. We want to share it.
Yes.
And if it does help one person, then we've helped one person. That's how I look on it.
Exactly, Simon. I use Charlie's phrase. I couldn't agree more. But thank you. Yeah, God bless you, and thank you for the opportunity to share. Because I just wanted to. I know there's the other side, but I just wanted to reaffirm and thank those that are positive, and also to let you know that you're very loved and thought well of in the area. Just in closing, I maybe didn't say it totally clearly, but I just wanted to in concluding. So 117 market crash plus 118 the storm comes to 235. First quarter. Sorry. First.
The moon.
Yeah, the moon. Yeah. You can say. Hang on.
Sorry, it's complicated. You've got a difficult logarithm here because it's quite a lot.
Yeah, it's because I did it just literally like as I called you. So so here we go. Yes. Okay, here we go. Yes. So the half moon
Mm.
comes to 172, plus Friday comes to 235, which comes to market crash plus 118, the storm. And we've seen plenty of references in the newspapers about it. 117 is publicity, market crash. Harry and Meghan comes to 118, comes to Tom and Simon, the storm, 118. And it's a theme that's running through everything. It's what we did in our first episode about your transition to the United States with Scottsdale.
Right. It's also running through all the newspapers, though, because, like you said, you couldn't find a paper without Harry and Meghan in it. It was on the front page. So why either these people are trying to warn the likes of us, or they're trying to warn their elite friends. It's one of the two, isn't it?
Yes, interesting. That's interesting. And I guess whichever end of the spectrum we're at, we can at least see the message. But that's a very good point, Simon. Yeah, very good.
Tom, it's been wonderful. It always is lovely to speak to you. I don't know anyone else who is as quick with the figures as you are, and they're very good. And I know that the audiences actually love hearing it because, like I said, the first time we met, they're usually just presented with what the numbers mean. But of course, watching you live, then they can understand how those numbers mean what they mean. And that means that it makes more sense. If you just present someone with a load of figures, then it's like, oh, I have to accept what you say. But when you explain it, then you can say, oh, right, so it's a relevant historical topic taking place at the moment. Therefore, I can understand it. Tom, lots of love. Thanks ever so much.
Thanks, Simon. Same to you. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye.